Go ahead and start, Ryan. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ron Kath. I'm the Vice Chair of the Cottage Grove Public Service Commission. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This meeting's being held at the council chambers here in Cottage Grove. We are starting at 7 o'clock this evening. That's our first item on the agenda tonight, is to call our order. Our second item to move through our agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. With that, our next item on the agenda is roll call. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the approval of our agendas. Commissioners have had the opportunity to review these minutes or the agenda before we arrive. So are there any additions or subtractions from the agenda this evening? I open a motion then to approve our agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, moved by Jenny, a second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Tracy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the approval of our minutes. Again, commissioners have had the opportunity to review the minutes from our July 21st meeting. Are there any additions or subtractions from those minutes? None. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve our July 21st minutes?
I'll do a motion to approve.
Okay, Lisa moves the motion. Second?
I'll second it.
Nate seconds it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to open forum. I look into the audience. I'm not seeing anybody in the audience this evening, so we'll move past open forum and move right into our presentations this evening. Our first presentation is our sidewalk and trail snow removal review, and that'll be presented by our Director of Public Services, Ryan.
Members of the commission, we're here to talk about our sidewalk and trail snow plowing that we do in the city. When we went through the budget process this year, this was a discussion point because we had a few machines up for replacement. They're quite expensive machines that we use particularly for our sidewalks because you need kind of special equipment that can be large enough to get it all done but fit on those narrow sidewalks. So the council just asked that staff look at this. Several years ago, we did take a look at this at the city council, kind of see what it costs and see the pros and cons, but there was a request to bring that back forward just to have the commission actually look at it. And tonight, I'll be giving an overview of what we do, our policies, and how we do that, and then want to get feedback more specifically on the residential neighborhoods. Because the main roads, those are something that we have to remove snow from on those trails and sidewalks, but all the residential streets that we do as well. Want to get commission feedback on that. Weigh the pros and cons, not looking for any decisions, but just want to get your feedback. And is there other information that you'd like to hear about the process that I could bring back at a future meeting to kind of further the discussion? So with that, I'll get started. We remove snow from about 112 miles of sidewalk and trail throughout the city. That also includes county road trails because that's the way it works with not just Washington County, but really any counties. The local jurisdiction, the city, is actually responsible for the snow removal of county trails as well. About 25 miles of that is sidewalk adjacent to homes and residential neighborhoods. That's a number that we've really seen climb because about 2007 is when the city adopted a new standard to have a sidewalk on one side of every residential street. Before that, sidewalks were pretty uncommon in residential neighborhoods. There was one development in 2007, then you had the recession, so not much happened. But since 2013, probably most of those 25 miles have been built. So it's something that we've continued to do and continue to add to our workload. On average, now it can vary greatly by the winter, but on average, we took a look at 3 winters in a row, a big one, a light one, and then last year, which while we didn't get a lot of snow, we had a lot of snowfalls, small snowfalls. So about 1,000 hours of clearing total staff time every year is what we have to do that work. And then for sidewalk routes, we have 4 dedicated machines for that. 2 of those I would say are used for sure year-round. The other 2 don't see as much use in the off-season, the non-winter season. And then we have 3 trucks with plow attachments that we do the trails with. Trails are 8 feet wide, so it's really easy to have a pickup plow with an attachment. So those are very cost-effective because the pickup we're gonna have with the staff member anyways, and then a plow is like $12,000. So pretty low cost to do the trail removal. 2 routes of that I would say is majority on-road trails. Think of like 80th and 70th, things like that. And another route is more the off-road trails through parks and open spaces. And on this map, I know it's kind of big, the whole city, but just the idea is the red is we call it transportation trails and sidewalks. So those are trails and sidewalks that are, on a main road, on a county road, or maybe in a park, right? In a park where no one else is going to clear it except for the city. And then the green is all of those sidewalks, almost all sidewalks. We have 1 trail segment that goes in front of a person's house. Otherwise, it's all sidewalks that the city clears snow, but it is in front of homes where we could, some cities, right, have the homeowners do that snow removal. We took a look at the cost of the snow removal. The top table there, that's our equipment. So looking at the purchase costs of the different types of a piece of equipment, you can see those top 2, those are extremely expensive. So those do sidewalks. That trackless tractor, $220,000, and that holder tractor is shown at $135,000. That's a little bit older number. It's probably higher than that at this point, but you can see those are very expensive pieces of equipment. And those are ones that we do use, especially the trackless year-round. We use those in the summer for mowing ponds, sweeping trails, all that kind of stuff. So those do see the year-round use. And you can kind of see that with the maintenance cost, obviously being higher. The John Deere tractor, that's something new. So that used to be a bombardier. It was called kind of a big tracked piece of equipment, similar in cost to that trackless or the holder, but it only got used in the winter. And we used it for sidewalks, but over time we haven't found it to be the best piece of equipment. It's more meant for going straight, going in straight lines and going on these neighborhood sidewalks. It does not work well. So we're working with this John Deere tractor or maybe a Kubota tractor that we can buy that you can see is a lot lower cost. And we're just working with manufacturers. Can we outfit it to be small enough to fit on our sidewalks? Most of our sidewalks are 5 feet wide, and you need equipment that's less than 5 feet wide because you have to have a little bit of play in there, right? In the wintertime, you can't see under the snow, where's the edge of the sidewalk, and you got to be able to maneuver around corners. So that is our goal for this year, is to replace one of those really expensive pieces of equipment. We're going to be replacing it with a tractor instead. And then you can see the truck plow attachments. We just show $12,000 a piece because the pickup truck we would have regardless whether we were plowing with it or not. And then on the bottom, you can see our cost, our labor cost built into that as well. So when you put all that together, we spend about $153,000 a year on those transportation trails and sidewalks, and $46,000 a year on that 25 miles of call it the neighborhood sidewalks that are kind of the question and the feedback we're looking for tonight. One last thing I want to talk about that's kind of a nuance with a city like Cottage Grove. When you think about maybe a Minneapolis or St. Paul in their residential areas, you've got just block pattern cities and you have homes on every frontage, right? So it's fairly easy, I would say. I don't know if it's easy, but it's pretty straightforward to have residents clear their sidewalks. In Cottage Grove, because all of our sidewalk is in newer neighborhoods, these are all neighborhoods that are built up with stormwater ponds, parks, different open spaces. So this is an example up in the waters at Michael's Point where highlighted in blue is a city parcel, and then that stretch of sidewalk is not in front of anyone's home. We've got a similar thing on the other cul-de-sac. So typical standard is if a city asks residents to shovel their sidewalks, they're doing it directly adjacent to their property. So this is an example of something where we would have to go up and remove snow from that small section of property regardless. That was probably one of the main reasons that when we looked at it 4 or 5 years ago, that we continued to do what we did, because all of our developments are scattered with these little sections of sidewalk. Not just the fact that we have to drive and do them, but you look at how we have to get on that. It's kind of a dead end with where the person would shovel. So are we getting on in their driveway and then clearing their sidewalks? Now they don't have to clear sidewalk and everyone else does. There's just a lot of challenges with that. One other example is up in the Eastbrook development. You can see this is a city pond in that open space. It's a dry pond. We call it an infiltration basin. There's no water. But you can see two different sections of city sidewalk that are kind of landlocked, if you want to say, by residential sidewalk in front of people's homes. So this kind of exists all throughout our neighborhoods. We just took a couple examples for now. If the commission wanted, we could probably look more at exactly how many locations are there, how many miles of sidewalk is it versus the rest, right? We could get more information on that, but this is definitely one of the challenges of asking residents to do it, and what's the benefit of that, because we'd be driving through all of these neighborhoods, clearing these small sections regardless. So with that, that's really the numbers I have. That's some of the challenges. I just wanted to present it to the commission tonight, and certainly get the feedback. Is there more information you'd like to see? And as you think about this, we can talk about it more at a future meeting.
All right. Well, thanks, Ryan. Then I'll open it up to the commissioners. Are there any questions or comments at this point?
I think it'd be really interesting to see kind of a survey of other cities and what they're doing at some of the older suburbs, like you mentioned, Minneapolis, St. Paul. I know like Columbia Heights, where I happen to work, are kind of have that traditional model where residents shovel their own sidewalks. But if you don't have the information, it'd be helpful to know what other similar suburbs to
Yep.
Cottage Grove do.
Yeah, we can do that, Commissioner. We did do, a little bit of a review at some cities. I would say the majority, just at a high level, more cities have the residents clear them than not, I would say.
Yep.
But there are other cities like Oakdale that do clear it. I think something we could look at with that is some of the growing cities is how do you handle your new growing neighborhood areas? Because if you look at Woodbury, for example, they'd have really similar issues with all the ponds and such. So
Right.
I should have added, if you put the ponds behind the homes, that eliminates that frontage issue, but then we have bad access to our ponds. So if you go to a lot of the neighborhoods in the 2000s, the ponds are all tucked behind all the houses. So there is no pond frontage, but we have really bad access to those ponds. So our new standard is to have the ponds adjacent to a street so Gary and his crew can get in and do the work easier.
Okay.
Other
Any
questions?
questions?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention, one of the first things I noticed when I moved down here was the snow removal in the residential neighborhoods. It's incredibly refreshing as a new resident coming to an area that you're not real familiar with. All of a sudden you see a snowplow go racing by and poof, all your snow is gone off your sidewalk. So I did appreciate that. If you were just to make a wag at it, how many neighborhoods are like those two photos? Is it pretty prevalent?
Yep, Commissioner, I would say that especially after 2013, it's very prevalent. Every neighborhood would have some section of sidewalk we have to plow. Like I said, where we have a little bit of sidewalk in that 2000s era, Timber Ridge, things like that is where you maybe won't have it, but ever since 2013, you would have that situation.
Yeah, so you'd end up actually transporting or driving essentially to every neighborhood to remove snow anyway.
Yep. That is one of our considerations, because these machines, while they do have like a road gear, they go maybe like 18 miles an hour. So it's not, the pickups that can get around really effectively can't plow these sidewalks. They can get on a road and drive around, so.
One of the other things I thought was super refreshing too is that because you guys are out in the mornings and all of the snow is plowed, it's easy to walk on the residential sidewalks for school-age kids. They don't have to walk through the snow because the sidewalks are plowed to the bus stops. And then also people that run and whatever other winter activities they do outside that involves traversing on a sidewalk, they're plowed. So I think that's certainly a thing to take into consideration too. When you look at the costs, I don't know what the total budget is for the city, but I think that seems like a fairly small total cost of ownership for plowing over 100 and some miles of sidewalk, right?
112, yep. Yeah, the total tax, that's more, but the plowing budget, if you take this and then the roads, we plow about 180 miles of roads, it's about $1 million. So this is, roughly, 20% of that budget, I would say.
Wow.
So it's a significant chunk, but obviously the road plowing is a lot higher.
Yeah.
So as a resident of Cottage Grove, I wanted to say thank you for currently plowing and shoveling the sidewalks. It really is great. So I'm echoing what Nate said. Do appreciate that. But questions regarding, I read in the thing here regarding what are some of the proposed options? You know, should we have our residents do it? And if they don't do it, we would fine them. And so now you're competing with neighborhoods that have sidewalks on one side of the street and not the other. So now I'm speaking on behalf of the residents, not just myself, but different people will plow different, they have different definitions. So what's good enough? Kind of like lawn and maintenance care, you know. So it comes back to what are some of the other cities paying for their fines? It would be interesting to know that. And then, yes, we have a sidewalk, but we don't utilize a sidewalk as much as other people do for, you know, walking their dogs or exercising and stuff. So I bring that up because I have a question on assessments. If the roads in front of our houses are fixed, we have to pay assessments for that, which I get. But for sidewalks, is it just the homeowner who has to pay the assessment fees for that, or is it the whole neighborhood that pays for that?
That's a great question, Commissioner. So the entire neighborhood pays for all the sidewalks collectively.
Okay.
No matter if you have them or not. And actually, the neighborhood pays for 45% and the general tax pays for 55%, actually.
Okay, that's
Yep.
good to know, because I didn't know that. But then, when we have our own sidewalks and we don't do it within a certain amount of time, then we would be assessed a fine, but the rest of the neighborhood wouldn't be assessed a fine. And so, trying to make that fair, if that's the right way to say that, that would be a question that would come up.
Yeah, and that is that's a interesting way you say it, because sometimes it comes up of, you know, all the taxpayers are paying for the sidewalk removal, but they don't all have a sidewalk in front of their house. But depending on what neighborhood you live on, maybe you can use them, maybe you can't. But it's the flip side too. You're being required to remove it when your neighbor doesn't have to. The
Right.
fines, we could look into what other cities do more. I know from personal experience, one city I used to live in before I moved here, it was hefty. I mean, that was 6 years ago. It basically ended up almost being $200. They had like a $50.
For event?
Yep, if you didn't do it, yep, they had now I'll go on a little bit, because they had a $50 like inspection fee, then a $100 removal fee, then a $50 re-inspection fee. But what I can say is it's a lot of work to do that, you know, so we have 25 miles in our town in front of homes. There could be 30 to 40 to even 50 snow events a year. I mean, that's a full-time job to try and manage that effectively. And I can tell the town I lived in, they weren't done, right? So I mean, by the end of winter, half the sidewalks were just packed in with snow a foot deep, and half the sidewalks were clear. Because it is a lot of work to try and make, by my estimation, probably about 1,300 to 1,400 homes shovel the sidewalks.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
You know, Ryan, you brought up a good point then, on these dead-headed or, you know, sections of, that there's no homes on them. I think too, when you look, if you go back and look at that to get the number of like how many instances there are, it's probably more for the council.
Yep.
I'd probably have you look too at the walking distances from our schools that are within those areas. Because I know the elementaries are a 1 mile walking radius, your middle schools are a 1.5.
Yep.
And your high schools are technically 2. Now, I know a lot of those are major roads that are gonna get done anyways, but how many of them would be affected within the neighborhoods themselves? Because that was my fear too, is not having them all cleared at the same time to get to, and it could even be a bus stop, but I was thinking more at least at the school level to segregate it a little bit, especially for those walkers.
Yep.
At this point, I think that's another critical data point that has to be brought up at this point, because I'll admit, it sounds to me like anytime there's a snow event, superintendent gets a hold of our local cities, especially our 4 major ones.
Yep.
You know, where are you guys at with plowing, and do you feel comfortable by time school starts, we can get the kids and the buses through there? Yes or no, and that's usually when the superintendent will make the call at that point. So knowing that, where if we have this 48-hour rule for a resident to clear it, that's not gonna be a very fruitful way of getting it done in my mind. And I think I was like with Nate too, I was kind of curious, like out of the total budget, and if you broke down just this little incident here, this one line item, if you broke it down, not the total plowing budget,
Yep.
I'd segregate it down to that little bit.
Yep.
And if we're getting into less than 1%, then to me, I think it's a great benefit to have for our community as a
whole.
benefit. Because again, we have a lot of people using the trails for walking and stuff, and to have that all done consistently has a lot of merit in my mind.
Yeah, I just want to stress this too, like, in my previous place of residence, they had a lot of snow events. And it was typically very high volume snow events.
Yep.
And what didn't happen was the city didn't plow a lot of the sidewalks, along the main roads, and they would have 4 feet of snow on them. So what do people do? Well, they got to get to the bus stop or got to get to work or school or something somehow, so they walk in the road, which to me is like frightening for some of these kids, trying to walk to school or walk to the bus stop.
Yep.
So yeah, when it comes down to how much it costs, like how much is a kid getting hit by a car worth? I would say we can justify the budget by plowing sidewalks in any case. So
Yep.
yeah, that's definitely a consideration. Like you mentioned, the distance to the school, like how do you enforce a resident to shovel their sidewalk within 8 hours or something so
Yep.
people can actually traverse their sidewalks?
Yep.
I know we don't get 36-inch snowfalls on the regular here, but it does happen, so it's something to at
Yep.
least consider.
No, and that's good. And we can, I think working with our GIS department, we can do that because they did all the mapping for the sidewalks. So they pretty easily can drop in all the school zones, create the radius, and we could figure out how many miles of that, especially the residential sidewalk, the ones that we're more focused on for this policy. We could look at that.
Yeah.
I would just say it's also not just kids walking to school, but walking to their bus stops, having that accessible,
True.
because that's obviously very important too, so.
No, that's a good point, Commissioner. And one thing in terms of options I can add, it's not really specific to the policy, but trying to make the program more cost-effective, just looking at those types of equipment. We have traditionally had a 5-foot sidewalk standard, which feels good and usable, but if we switch to a 6-foot sidewalk standard, the options for equipment just open up a huge amount, because so much equipment out there is 5 feet wide. And I'm not putting a 5-foot machine on a 5-foot sidewalk because you're just gonna tear every yard up and wreck irrigation heads and dog fences. But if you have a 6-foot sidewalk, now you can look at 5-foot machines, and they're even lower costs than that John Deere tractor, but still maintainable, by our staff. So that's something that we're looking to do. Areas that have 5 foot, we're kind of stuck with them, right, until maybe a future reconstruct way down the road. But as we move development east of Keats, we are looking to go to 6-foot sidewalks, so we can start, like our next sidewalk route, if we continue to do it, could be a cheaper machine.
With that 6-foot sidewalk, that additional foot, would it just eat into the city's easement essentially in the front portion of the lot? So the landowner wouldn't actually be out anything, it would just.
That's correct. Yep, we would add, so right now it's a 9-foot boulevard. We would go to an 8-foot boulevard is what we would do, so.
Fantastic.
Just again, every time you say sidewalk, you're talking cement and trail, it's asphalt,
Yep,
right?
yep, that's correct, Councilmember Thiede. So yeah, sidewalk, always concrete, and then the trails are always those 8-foot wide bituminous trails that we plow with our pickups. And even from that cost standpoint, I think you used to see, just out of habit, like you go to Ravine Parkway here, there's a sidewalk on one side, trail on the other. Nowadays, we just do 2 trails. It's wider, you can, and not that that was wrong by any means, it's just looking over time at the cost, right? We can plow it so much easier with pickups, and to be honest, the extra couple feet is nice for users as well, so.
I know this isn't part of the conversation, but I will say thank you to your entire department on the excellent job of plowing this sidewalks and the trails. Every year I've lived here, it's just incredible. It's really nice to be able to go out on a decent December or February day and be able to walk in the morning and walk your dogs and not worry about breaking your neck on a patch of ice or something. So yeah, thank you so much. Seriously, you guys do amazing work.
So Ryan, from a process standpoint for the commission, what are next steps for us? Are you going to be bringing this back to us and for a recommendation to give to council? Or is it really for us to give that tonight and then it's going to council? I'm kind of curious.
I was gonna see kind of how the conversation went. I mean, there is a lot of good questions you asked with some feedback that I think would be useful that I could present to the commission.
Sounds pretty clear on what your feelings is and so forth.
True. Yep.
And this is the first I've seen of the data, and
Yep.
that's good and everything else, so.
Yep.
I think your input is definitely, good. I don't know if you have to bring it back to them for any other level decision, but.
Yeah, we'll look at how this data comes together. At a bare minimum, we could provide it to the commission directly, just so you can see what it looks like, so.
And you mentioned earlier this, but I think there would be value in comparing. So if you have to start trying to enforce
Yep.
the issue of what is the cost associated with that compared to continuing doing what we're doing? And, you know, is it ultimately, you know, kind of negates the whole thing if you're trying to enforce something that is going to be real challenging to do too, so.
Yep. No, I think that's something we can look at for sure.
And the only other solve idea, if the council were to come forward and say, no, we want to go to residents doing this, my only thought there was where you have those areas where we would quote unquote be a city, maybe you work with that, like if I lived on that corner lot, I have a snow blower, and if you came to me and said, hey, we'll pay you a stipend just to do this little section besides the front of your house. So I throw that out as a suggestion that if council comes forward and says, nope, we're gonna bring this to the residents, and they're gonna start shoveling their sidewalks, right?
Yep.
I thought of that idea too. You know, for those people that are gonna be, that's what I started thinking too, is shoveling versus snow blowers. You know, how many residents, quote unquote, have a snow blower versus, so it's not as labor intense for that person than do a person that doesn't have one. So that was the only thing as an idea that I thought going forward, moving at that point.
The thought, excuse me, the thought was is that, you know, if somebody has a snow blower, it might be pretty easy just to, you know, take a couple of swipes on the sidewalk. But you also do, besides if somebody's shoveling, I guess the other aspect, there's a lot of people that probably just have a service that with a, you know, pickup plow or something that comes in and clears the driveway, which that would actually be then more difficult for the sidewalk too. They couldn't do the sidewalk.
True. And that is a fair point Councilmember Thede makes. So I live on a sidewalk in Cottage Grove, and I snow blow it. If my guy hasn't come through yet, I just clear it, because I don't know why. I don't know, I just do it. Probably because I used to live in a town that made me do it. But we see that a lot. So we see people who have snow blowers, and they'll just do it because they want it perfect, right? And our machines get it clear, they don't get it perfect, right? So some people will still come by with their, there's just a little bit left over, the blowers don't scrape right on the ground with our type of blowers, so they might clear it off. So people still do some work, I would say.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I know Gary would probably go by my house, because I have a catch basin right there, and we don't have sidewalks, but I still take my snow blower and make sure that catch basin is always clear, because I put a marker there at the beginning of the season, because I thought someday he's gonna drive by, and he's gonna go, Commissioner Kath, you're not keeping your catch basin open for me, so.
I'll drop a shovel off.
So with that, then, I think if there's no other questions or feedback for Ryan, I think we can probably move on to our next item then.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ryan. We have a business item next. It's the approval of our 2025 hunting map. That'll be presented by our Deputy Director of Public Safety and our police captain, Brad Peterson.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. So as you know, each year we take a look at our hunting maps for archery and firearms, and staff provides a proposed map with any necessary changes to alter those maps where hunting is and is not permitted in Cottage Grove. So typically, we do that a little bit earlier in the year, and we bring that to Commission first after staff has done their analysis with some recommendations, give you a chance to provide some feedback, and then it goes to Council for final approval. This year, I'll be honest, the calendar got away from us a little bit, and we looked at the calendar and realized that hunting season was about to start in a couple weeks, and we didn't have time to follow that traditional protocol. And so this year's hunting maps have already been approved by Council. So for that, I've asked for your
So you don't need an approval from us.
no, I'm not asking for approval, it's already been approved, but I apologize for that, but I also want you to know that your feedback is important in the process. It's an ever-evolving process, and so anything that you bring up now will carry forward into next year's recommendations. So as you know, we take a look at a number of things, including the past year's hunting-related incidents and complaints, all the development that has happened over the past year, and what's slated to happen in the next calendar year. Changes in parcel sizes due to sales or other things like that. And then staff decides based on our ordinance where hunting is and is not allowed. It's pretty black and white. So really, it's just a matter of looking at those variables and applying the ordinance, and then staff draws up the map where it is and is not allowed. So for 2025 and 26, there's very minimal changes. On Lehigh and Lamar Avenue, there are 4 parcels that changed in size. I presume due to sale. I don't know exactly why, but I know that staff looked at it and the size of the parcel changed so that they're no longer, that no longer allows hunting on those parcels. So one of those changes is for firearms, which requires 40 continuous acres. And then the other 3 parcels are for archery hunting, which requires, I think, 5 acres. I'll verify that here. Correct. So 5-acre parcel for archery season. So those are the only 4 changes that were proposed and approved by council. So I'll stand for your questions and recommendations.
All right, thanks. Any comments or questions from commissioners?
No, I appreciate how easy to read these maps are.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of color coding and stuff. Nice.
And then just a comment to, first of all, I appreciate that the city is still open, where we do have some open land that do allow for archery hunting. I think that helps with the population of the herd of the deer itself. Then maybe it'll mean less car accidents and stuff like that. So hopefully we get a few hunters out there that help keep the herd down. I know it was a number of years ago when there was an organization that actually came into Ravine Park, I think it was, to help clean the herd a little bit. So doing that, I think, is very beneficial as we get more and more our growth goes and enough traffic on some of our major highways. And so I do appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
All right, well, that completes our business item for this evening. We can move on to our commissioners' reports. I'll open it up to commissioners this evening for any comments or questions. I think it'll be in Brad's presentation.
Just kidding.
No comments? All right, then we'll move into our staff reports then. Ryan, I guess we'll start with you.
Yeah, I can start, commission. So first thing and the biggest thing I want to talk about is next Thursday night. So September 25th is our Public Works and Parks Open House. We do that every other year on the odd number years. So that's a big event down at Public Works. We usually get around 1,000 to maybe 1,300 people come out for that event. It's from 3 to 7. So from 3 to 4 is a sensory-friendly hour. So not all the music and equipment operating. Then from 4 to 7 is kind of the main Public Works open house event. So we have food there. The family can get a hot dog to eat. We have all the equipment. The staff are working with those, and we let some of the kids ride along on certain pieces of equipment. They got a giant sandbox that kids can dig and play in. We have vendors. All the different departments have all of their equipment set up, so it's a really fun night. Very, very popular. So I definitely invite you guys all down there next Thursday night for that. Then from a construction standpoint, our intermediate zone water treatment plant, since the last time I was here with the commission, that started work behind the central fire station. So that has been going well. Right now it looks like we dug a huge lake because the first step is pouring all the concrete that's in called the basement of the treatment plant, where all the water is in all these different big tanks. It's like 15,000 yards of concrete, so 1,500 concrete trucks. That's going to start here in October. That'll go all the way through the winter and then wrap up probably next June or July before they start setting tip-up panels for the building. So it's a huge effort for that. All the site work and grading has been going on up until now. You've probably seen a lane closure on 80th at times by the fire station. We're going to have a new access off of 80th as well. That way, all the construction can come off there, and in the future, semis have a way to get through the site without impacting the neighborhood as heavily. And we also did not want to impact the fire station, so we did not want to use any of the existing fire station access points to 80th. And then we're widening a road that went behind the fire station so we can have two-way traffic to get to the treatment plant. So that's been a big effort here over the last several months. So you'll see that work continue for actually 3 years. March of '28 is when the plant is initially operational, and it'll be totally complete in March of 2029. So we got a long ways ahead of us on that one. The Lozone Water Tower, I've talked about in the past. That's the new water tower that's going kind of just south of the park and ride on the other side of the railroad tracks. All the foundation work is done, and the permits are getting approved to start building the tower. So you'll start seeing concrete go up here this fall and go vertical. So you'll slowly start to see the concrete column of that tower come up behind the park and ride. So that's exciting. That will be done next August. So we'll do all the concrete this year and then work on the tank next year and painting the tank next year and then get it operational in August. Another really important project, but one that you maybe haven't noticed too much, is our sewer lining project. So one of our oldest and most full sanitary sewers flows underneath kind of the Jamaica business area, under Highway 61, and then under Public Works into the dog park. And it continues south through the dog park from there. But that section to the dog park has not been lined, and that's an original sewer from like 1960 era. And it's concrete, and it's getting to that age where we knew it needed rehab. The hard part is you have to get all the sewer out of there because 3/4 of the city flows through that. So it's a big bypass pumping. So you can see if you go on East Point Douglas between Merchants Bank and Subway, the road driveway's closed. We're pumping all it out of there. And then there's a pipe that goes kind of to the North Jamaica roundabout, and then you can see it in the ditch, and then it dives under the roundabout, comes up the other side, then it follows the fence down to Menards and goes into a Met Council manhole. So we're bypass pumping all that sewage while they line the pipe with a new liner. That'll give us basically, another 50 to 100 years of life on that sewer. So it's not that the sewer was failing. You don't want a sewer like that to get to the point of failing. This is more of a proactive, because we were getting to the end of life of that concrete, and now we won't have to worry about that, because going under Highway 61 is a huge risk, right, for the city if it's not maintained properly, which is what we're doing. So that's what that work has been. If you've seen that pipe there, if you've kind of seen a little bit of activity, that's that sewer lining project. So that'll get wrapped up here probably in the next 2 weeks, and then they'll get all the restoration done and be wrapped up. So with that, I will maybe turn over to Gary real quick before public safety for some street updates.
Good evening. So stormwater crew's been real busy this time of year. They're inspecting roughly about 300 catch basins. They have sumps in them, and they're about 3 feet deep, and that holds all the sand and debris before it gets to a pond, and which will make it down the river. So they're, with the use of a utility truck, they're sucking that out and cleaning them out. We're continuing to mow along all right-of-ways, ditches, country roads, ponds, get that buttoned up for winter. We're done completed paving operations, and now we're kind of going through town just doing pothole patching, any minor patching to get buttoned up before winter comes. We're also, hard to believe, talking plowing already, but we are already going through all the trucks, getting them ready for the season, preparing maps, seeing what changes we have to make for that. We're planting roughly about 135 trees finally from the storm of August 29th to 24, so make a lot of residents happy to get them trees back in. Other than that, yeah, just getting ready for winter. Any questions for me?
Questions for Gary?
I kind of have an odd question. So some of the neighborhoods have fences, especially like along 80th, they have the white kind of picket fences around them. Who maintains those essentially, if there's something wrong with them?
The homeowners do on, so, yeah, all the fences are residents fenced, they're responsible to make
So
sure.
like on the case on 80th, it'd be the homeowners.
What you see along you're talking like 80th Jamaica, all the fences you see up along.
Yes.
Yep, them are all residential fences. Yep.
Okay.
We mow roughly about a foot on the other side, on that side of the sidewalk, and most of them do all the trimming and, yeah, maintaining their fence and make sure they can withhold up against plowing. Obviously, they get some snow pushed up against them.
If the fence is, if you see like one fence that's the same, that's going between properties and so forth, could have been a homeowners association that originally, put a fence up, and then it should be the homeowners association that actually, is doing things to maintain it.
Well, I know I'm speaking specifically from Keats down 80th towards Jamaica. There's
Right there.
there's an area with white fence.
So that picket fence on the north side of the road,
Yes.
That's actually is like a homeowners association fence, that one is, the
Okay.
picket fence is. So the one from Keats to where the homes start there.
Because we live in that neighborhood and we don't have an association. And partly why I'm asking is because that fence has been broken now for quite a while because there was a car that went through it. And we're just trying to figure out who ultimately is responsible for repairing something like that.
Well, go ahead. Just, I would assume though that, right, that would probably be the homeowners that's actually on their property now, that if the homeowners association is gone, then it'd probably be the, whoever property is on that
Okay.
would now own the fence. You know, it's something like just same as across Hardwood from Hidden Valley, you know, they had a homeowners association. They had two huge like monuments off of Hardwood there, if you've ever gone by there. And their homeowners association went away. They let it go by, and it turns out they didn't have something documented properly. So now one of those monuments, the homeowner just kind of put their fence right around it. So, you know, you know, and I live in Hidden Valley. I believe in homeowners associations. It's something that, you know, I'm starting to get told that, well, you know, we can't require it or anything, but again, it, you know, I think it does, I think it does help in a neighborhood to have something like that. But it doesn't mean that you can't get like your homeowner association, you know, kind of back in play if you basically just need to get some, you know, get some of the homeowners together and things like that and maintaining some of that. But otherwise it'd be, you know, it'd be probably the homeowner. And I don't know if there's any city regulation that would require them to fix that fence, you know.
Yeah, I can't think of a regulation that we have, you know, on that, but we could certainly ask our code enforcement department about that. But I do know, I think Councilmember Thiede is correct, you know, those fences are on private property, so if an HOA does kind of dissolve, it's still the backyard fence, you know, for a home, so they would be the ones responsible for it.
So question for Ryan, back to the 80th Street treatment plant.
Yep.
Do we have any numbers of the amount of trucks? Once the plant is up and functional?
Yep.
Is there an estimate of how many vehicles are going to be coming through that new road?
So yeah, it's actually very small. We had to build it because we do have to get semis through, and there's no way to turn a semi around on that property. It was so tight. But the actual media, we call it the media that does the PFAS treatment, that only gets changed out like once every 4 years. It's like once every 4 years, you know, maybe seven or 10 semis would come through.
Okay.
And then the chemical deliveries, those are about weekly, but that's kind of like a box truck. That's not a big semi truck. So about once a week, a box truck would come through for chemical deliveries as well. So I keep saying the plant is a pretty nice neighbor once it's done. During construction, it's a lot, but once it's done, it's quiet. There's no noise, there's no odors, it's water treatment, and then there's very little traffic as well.
Well, one of the reasons why I brought it up is just now that school's in session, you got Park High School.
Yep.
That puts a lot of traffic on that road in the morning at a certain time and in the afternoon when they're releasing.
Yep.
So I was thinking of truck traffic coming in at the same time and trucks trying to merge onto that road with kids coming out of there.
Gotcha.
I didn't know if they, you know, you could tell the contractor or the owner, say, you may not want your trucks coming in at this window of time as this high school's either coming to session or releasing at the end of the day too, but it doesn't sound like it's gonna be that much traffic to worry about them.
Especially, and during construction, there's more, so we can definitely talk about that. We have weekly meetings with the contractors on updates, so we could talk to them about that traffic. And even though I said a lot of concrete trucks, it is over the course of almost a year, so each day, it's not as much of an impact, and it's usually more, not towards the end of the day, because they want to get all the concrete in and work it and such before the end of the day, so we can definitely talk to the contractor about that.
Okay, great.
You're gonna bring the concrete trucks in on 80th and not from the neighborhood from the south, right?
That's correct, yep,
Okay.
yep.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Thank
I was
you.
actually gonna ask, before I forget, Ryan, what is the material that is going in that sewer existing sewer pipe, what is the liner? Is it like a composite plastic or?
Yeah, it's like a plastic liner, so it's flexible, so they can pull it through, and then it's sized perfectly for that size of concrete. And then it's a special UV light that they pull through it, and it cures it very quickly over the course of the same day. So when they bypass all the sewage, it's only during the day, and then the new liner is done by the end of the day, and then they let it go again, so.
Science, wow. So the existing was concrete though?
Concrete, that's correct, yep.
Okay, cool, thank you.
So maybe I'll work my way from left to right then. Brad, you're in the middle. If you have an update for safety and police for us this evening?
Yeah, I'll give you an update on the police department. I'll give you a quick update on staffing to start off with. So I'm proud to say that we're at 100% staffing in the police department now. So if you recall back to an earlier update at the beginning of the year, we started the year in a significant deficit with staffing. I think we were 6 down in the patrol division at one point. And so we've recovered from that in large part due to the success of our CSO and our CSO cadet program. Really excited to let you know that our CSO cadet program, which launched this year, was a huge success. We found it to be extremely beneficial. We have one on solo patrol now who graduated from that program. I shouldn't say graduated, but worked their way through that program. And then the second officer is just finishing her schooling this week, and will be starting field training probably next week. So thumbs up to the CSO cadet program. The downside of our reliance on our CSO and CSO cadet program is that we go through a lot of CSOs because they become police officers or gain experience here and go on to become a police officer in another community. So we find ourselves hiring a lot of CSOs. So we're currently hiring 3 CSOs, hoping to start them by the end of the year. So if you know any good candidates, help us spread the message, and we'll be doing interviews soon. I know there's no shortage of applicants. We have about 65 applicants as of this morning, so there's a rich talent pool. And again, partly due to that CSO cadet program, because they know that that's a direct pathway to their career goals, so it kind of helps us on both ends. We were fortunate enough to get granted renewal of the DWI traffic safety officer. So Loudon Renzel's position that he's held for the last calendar year, or I should say last fiscal year, from October through the current date, is getting renewed. So he's going to stay in that position through the rest of 2025's calendar year, and then a new officer will assume that position. So we're in the amidst the selection process for that position now. Just to let you know, Loudon has in the neighborhood of 130 to 140 DWIs in the last 11 plus months. So far exceeded our goal. Our goal was 100 in a calendar year, and he's far exceeded that. And then along those same lines of traffic safety, that's probably one of the things that we hear most about from the community is they have a particular complaint about speeding or, reckless driving or whatever their complaint is. We hear about it a lot, and we try our best to address it with our patrol division, but they have other responsibilities too. So something new that we're going to do in 2026 is each day shift, so Monday through, actually 7 days a week, is going to have a traffic safety officer. So there'll be dedicated officers to address that daytime traffic safety issue. So they'll have some additional duties too, so they're not going to be 100% focused on traffic safety, but as staffing and call volume and other things allow, that'll be their primary job is traffic safety. So I'll continue to give you updates on that, but we're excited about that potential. Along the lines of grant opportunities, we did submit a grant application to the COPS hiring grant office asking for another case management officer. So one of the things that you see before you is a update on the case management unit. We put those statistics and information together about a month and a half ago. We knew that that unit was incredibly successful and influential in the community, a huge benefit to the community, a great investment, but we didn't realize how impactful they were until we actually put these numbers together. And so I want to draw your attention to page 2, the slide titled Outcomes. And so what this does is compares the number of calls for service, arrests, hospitalizations in that client base before CMU and after they were enrolled in the CMU program and given some resources and some extra love from the police department. And I should also add the EMS department because they play a role in our CMU unit as well. So you can see that before CMU, about 650 calls for service, 21 arrests, 199 hospitalizations. A lot of those are mental health related where they are put on emergency holds and transported to the hospital. After CMU, you can see a 91% reduction in calls for service, 62% reduction in arrests, and 80% reduction in hospitalizations. And that accomplishes, a lot of major and important goals, right? It's unburdening our public safety department. It's resulting in this particular vulnerable client base ending up in jail less often, ending up on emergency holds in the hospital less often, getting them the resources that they need to actually become successful, productive, well members of our society. And so I just wanted to share that with you to show you how impactful that unit is and understand why we're asking for more resources in that department to staff more of those positions. So, any questions on CMU in particular before I move on to the next topic?
Is it a state-funded grant, private-funded grant, or?
Federal.
Federal, okay.
And I should also add that council is also considering funding that position internally. Not immediately, probably, but hopefully in the not-too-distant future. Right, Dave? Dave's?
Yeah, there.
I was gonna ask, the outcomes snapshot, what's the time frame for for before and after? Is it a year?
No, it's hard to, the short answer is, I don't know. We could put some parameters on that query, but we didn't in this case. We just wanted to know John Doe before and after.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, I was just curious if it was like, 12 months and 12 months after or what, but those outcomes are incredible. No matter the time frame.
Right.
They're outrageously fantastic, so thank you. This is,
And just to jump on with Brad here, we do have a community paramedic in there, and one of the hardest things ever is how do you quantify prevention? So the fact that we could even quantify that as a piece of that, but you look at that, and so I think everything we see there, you're probably doubling that impact, just knowing that it's hard to do prevention, and a simple visit by somebody is probably preventing 6 more. So I mean, just applaud that work and knowing that it's so hard to even get those numbers, let alone getting something that's actually measurable. So it really is impressive.
yeah, I remember you guys talking about this at like one of my first commission meetings. This is fantastic results. It's amazing.
yeah, I just want to take this opportunity to note that statewide, they launched a model casement. I forget the name of it. It's in your packet, but essentially they recognized our success and modeled their model policy and practice after what we've done. So we're a huge contributor to the statewide program. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Wish I could say I could take some credit for it, but this was all done long before me, so. All right, so moving on, another update. I mentioned in the past meeting that we're starting a trial for the Flock Automated License Plate Reader Program. So we launched a 2-year pilot project where we're installing 12 cameras throughout town, which are automated license plate readers. And so those license plate readers are strategically placed throughout town. In your packet, you can see the locations. The intention is to essentially gate the city of Cottage Grove. So as anytime somebody comes into or out of Cottage Grove, we're reading their license plate. It's important to note for the commission and the public at large that this technology is not used to track people or really vehicles for that matter. What it does is it reads the license plate, performs a query against the state motor vehicle database and NCIC, and it looks for hits for stolen vehicles, stolen license plates, wanted individuals, if they're particularly tied to that vehicle, and registered owners of that vehicle who may have a revoked or suspended driver's license, warrants, things like that. If we want to search for people or get hits off of this technology for a person, we need a warrant to do that. And so generally, we're not doing that unless we're doing an active investigation on a particular individual and probable cause has been developed and things like that. But, so it's really important to understand that this isn't an example of Big Brother tracking everybody's movements and collecting data on individuals. And for that matter, we don't even retain this data or really search this data unless we have a particular need to. It's purged automatically over time. So that's how that works. So I just wanted to let you know that we've got 4 out of the 12 cameras up and running. The last 8 are still waiting on permitting from the county and state. Hope to get that soon. But you can see with only 4 cameras operational, we've read and queried almost 1 million plates already, so we're averaging about 30,000 plate reads per day, and that's producing pretty remarkable results that are actionable. So that's leading to significant arrests, recovering stolen property, apprehending wanted individuals, and making our roadways safer because we're taking those unlicensed drivers off of the streets. And so in your packet, you've got some of that data before you, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions on that.
So you mentioned these were coming, I think, last commission meeting. On my way here today, I happened to look up and to the left coming through the roundabout down here. Is that one there?
Which roundabout?
Sorry.
Innovation and East Point?
It's the roundabout at the end of 70th, 70th and Keats.
No, we do not have one there.
Okay.
So currently, we have one at 80th and Hardwood. We have one at Innovation and East Point. And I'm gonna have to look at my map to remember where the other is. We have one by the Wakota Inn, and then we have another at, did I say 80th and East Point yet?
Yeah.
80th and East Point. Yeah. So,
Based off of those cameras, that's an amazing volume of vehicles. Wow.
yeah. And then the last page there, you can see some of the data that I pulled today to show you the nature of the incidents and arrests and citation that it's leading to. So, and that's only 4 cameras. And the other thing that's really cool about these two that I want to bring up is they're an incredibly important investigative tool. So for example, if you were to report to me that last night my car was broken into and my home surveillance system captured a white sedan, all you know about the suspect is it's a white sedan, right? I could literally go into the system, type in white sedans between midnight and 6 a.m. and it's going to give me a list of all those vehicles. Now that gives me a lead that I can use to continue my investigation, and that capability is helping us solve crimes where otherwise we would have no leads.
That's cool. So when was the first date that this was implemented?
In August, I forget the actual date.
Like just last month?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, there's a neighbor of mine who Amazon came to deliver a package, but got out of the car, but didn't put it in park, and it went forward and crashed their garage door. But there was nothing on the Ring camera that would say what type of vehicle it was, and so they couldn't get. Amazon would not take responsibility for it,
Interesting.
which apparently is very common. But had that been in place, I would have let them know that. So,
Right.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do other cities use these? Like in the
Yeah,
in the
we're actually
metro?
one of the latecomers to the program, so it's been used in Woodbury for a couple of years. Hastings uses it, Hudson uses it. Just about every community is using it. And so we were kind of the last to the party because we wanted some of the technology and the case law and things to develop a little bit before we jumped into it.
Very nice.
Do these metrics potentially help, like traffic planning for you, Ryan?
I mean, in terms of the license plate reading, I mean, not necessarily, but it is interesting if they have a count number. You
Yeah,
know,
like
we
the
have different
volume,
ways
that's
of doing traffic counts. This can be could be like maybe if we just look at the data, right? It could be a very cost-effective way to get kind of a quick traffic count data.
Yeah, that's kind of the first thing I was thinking when I looked at this volume. I was like, it was very surprising to me. I didn't think we had that kind of volume on those, between those 4 cameras, but that's incredible.
And I can isolate the data to a particular camera, so if you wanted to know how many cars drive past the Lakota Inn eastbound in a certain time frame, I can literally pick the camera, set the time frame parameters, and tell you how many cars went by, or at least how many license plates the camera captured.
Yeah,
And it's capturing almost every plate, so.
that's awesome. This is, yeah, very impressive. Thank you.
And just a couple other quick updates. Riggs, our therapy canine, was certified. He's a really important member of our CMU team, so that was a huge milestone for us. We just recently got approval to add our 3rd patrol canine, and we're in the process, I shouldn't say we, but the Public Safety Board is in the process of fundraising for that. So hopefully Sydney Whalen will get her new canine in December, go to school in January, and come online in the spring with our 3rd patrol canine. And then the Public Safety Board was generous enough to give us a brand-new drone, so we're learning that new technology now, and that's going to give us some new capabilities and replaces our outdated equipment. So a lot going on, but that's all I have for now, unless you have questions.
Just one last question. It's probably gonna go more to Brad for traffic control. So we redid Hardwood and 80th there by Pizza Ranch, all the utility, but no signs, no stop sign or lights have went up yet. When do we estimate that's gonna happen?
That's a good question. So I should have had that in my update. So that is gonna start getting work done here end of September into October. The new signals will go up. And that was planned. Those signals just take so long to go up. And because it was already a side stop, we just left it as a side stop today. Sometimes we've had ones in the past where you're converting an always stop to a signal, and you have to do that like right away once you start doing that work. But yeah, they take about 8 months to get all that equipment, so they should be up by the end of October.
Okay, great. With that, any other questions for Brad? No? We'll move over to John for a fire update then for us this evening.
Vice Chair, Commission, thank you. So first thing, it competes with the Public Works Open House, and we're gonna try to beat it, but we do have our Fire Department Open House October 7th, the Tuesday in October. It's from 5 PM to 7 PM. It'll be held at our Central Fire Station. Get a lot of great attendance and such, and we'll have live demonstrations, different community partners to promote their different activities that they have going on. And we hope to see a good, hope to see a lot of folks there. Weather's always hit and miss. The first year we did on a Tuesday night, it was raining. Last year was beautiful, so we're hoping for last year to replicate those results. So hope to see you there. Staffing, kind of along with the police department, we began the year at somewhat of a deficit for staff, but happy to report as of early October, in a couple weeks, we'll be at full strength for our full-time firefighter paramedics, which has been a lot of work to get there, but we've also hired a lot of great people, and we have a great culture because of that. We still continue to struggle with recruitment and retention of part-time folks. We did lose some folks to just internal promotions to full-time, which we're very proud of keeping those folks, but that model continues to be difficult. So that does have a big hindrance on our staffing, but we're very happy to get to the full-time strength, as they do cover about 16 out of 18 full-time FTEs in our department. So that is a big haul for them. With that said, we did have great success in our cadet program, which is the first time we're offering that. What makes our cadet program very unique for as a fire department is we actually offer them a full-time job at 32 hours a week, a living wage. They're making, I think, $22 to start, and then they also get health insurance and benefits. So we got about 90 applicants. We had to have 3 rounds of interviews just because of the amazing talent within that group, and we landed on one person that's going through the background phase right now. But just the breadth and depth of the different folks' background and everything, truly, I believe we're doing the right thing. This will be the first time we've done this, but we hope to replicate this. And long-term, we'd like to get 3, because then each fire department 24-hour shift will kind of have one cadet to really mentor and help develop. So they will, once they start, we assume they'll get through their background. They'll go to fire school and work their way up to actually going on calls. But in that meantime, they're going to be doing a lot of public education, a lot of public outreach, learning kind of just the days in and days out of it, the fun stuff, the not so fun stuff, and really just become at the end of it a great firefighter, EMT, then hopefully we can nab them full-time once those positions become open. So we're very excited about that. And then, as we kind of discussed in the past, or this past year, we're doing our fire services evaluation study. The other term for that is a standards to cover. It's kind of a formatted program that's done throughout the United States. We had the consultants, we did through an RFP process. They did their first quote-unquote on-site visit, so we got to see some of the preliminary data. And of course, preliminary data, we also have to make sure aligns with kind of what makes sense and such. So there were some very small edits to that, but that's looking everywhere from station placement, for example, Station 4 still a sustainable place to do things and those sort of things. And then out of this study, get some recommendations on how we move forward as a fire department, everywhere from staffing, operations, and those things. And now in the coming weeks to months, we are on the agenda for the Public Service Commission in November, but we may be inviting y'all to kind of like a focus group session, and we're thinking about involving our other commissions as kind of like a community-based focus group. So we're still solidifying the plans for that. So we're still coming up with that in more concrete, but just, I guess, keep a lookout for those invites. And of course, we value your input. You're the perfect folks to show some of this stuff to and get your feedback on that, because truly it is something I'll probably determine our path for the next 10 years or so. So it's a very important piece. And then lastly, just thank you to Ryan and his team. With, like you can see, that's a lot of work behind the fire station, and we're seeing no impacts on our operations. So it's truly been, I mean, I trust Ryan, so when he told me they're gonna minimize all that, I'm like, I know you will, but it's truly played out that way, and I've just been very happy with how that's been going and everything. So you see all that stuff there, but just know that it's not impacting our operations. And frankly, some of our folks like the temporary driveway. It's a little less of a turn and actually works out very well. So great communication's been working well, and our trucks are getting out the door and maybe even a little faster with that little shorter route through there. So with that, take any questions that you may have.
Any questions for John? Just one quick comment. I do appreciate that we continue to honor 9/11.
Yep.
Coming up 80th Street with the big flag and stuff is, I know it always, you know, the guy that's lived through it, right? It brings back that memory just like that. So I hope our community never, ever forgets that day, and I appreciate that our fire department puts that big flag out there, especially on a big major roadway like that. So thank you for doing that.
No, and thank you, we appreciate that. And actually, one thing we started last year, and now we're gonna continue as long as we can. We go to the East Metro Training Facility in Maplewood, and what we've decided to do is start every 9/11 that we would do our live fire training, where we actually go there, light fires and do training, because we feel also from our own perspective as firefighters, the best way to honor them is to actually do the work that they went to work to do that day and lost their lives doing. So on top of those public displays, we're also doing that internal display and really going out there and doing the work that truly, how we honor them in the work they did. So, thank you.
Thank you again for that.
Thank you.
With that, then, we can move into our council comments. With that, we have Councilman Dave Thiede with us this evening. Any comments or updates
Yes,
for
you
us?
guys, you know, we've spent a lot of time the last couple of months on budget and so forth, and got the preliminary budget out there the last meeting. And there's a couple of agendas in there from August and the first one in September. I don't know if you guys have any questions about any items that are on those or anything like that, or any other questions.
Any questions for Councilman Thiede?
No.
No? We're gonna let you off the hook easy this
There
evening
you
then.
go.
All right, well then that will conclude our meeting this evening. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll do a motion.
Moved by Lisa. Do I have a second? I'll second. Seconded by Jenny. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, everybody.